Welcome back to the Maritime CEO Seafarer Leader Series powered by Ocean Technologies Group. Throughout July and August, we're bringing you a mini-series focused exclusively on seafarers, sponsored by our friends at ILO Group. So far in the series, we've heard from employers, trade unions, the Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization, and seafarers themselves, all discussing the crew change crisis. Now, joining us today to take the discussion further is Brant Wagner from the International Labour Organization. Brant oversees crewing issues at the ILO. So let's kick this off with what lessons we can all learn from the past 6 months.
Okay, good morning, Sam. Thanks for inviting the ILO to participate in the Splash series. Before we start, just to say how much, as an organization, we're thinking about seafarers all the time. And, we know people are out there. I don't know, maybe seafarers may be listening to this. So we're thinking about you. There are a lot of people working to try to resolve the situation. And there's a lot done by many organizations, IMO, ICS, ITF, International Maritime Health Association, European Union, Intertanko, Intermanager. Everybody's working for this. In terms of lessons learned, I think one of the lessons learned in this situation is, in fact, the value of the Maritime Labor Convention. Why do I say that? Because the Maritime Labor Convention, for those who don't know the convention, I think most people do, but I mean, it's the key convention on the rights of seafarers. And this convention has now been ratified by 97 states, which is over 91% of the world fleet by gross tonnage. So it's out there, it's almost universal in many ways in the shipping world. And when the pandemic hit, many governments and others turned to the Maritime Labor Convention to say, what do we do? How do we apply the convention, and how does it protect rights of seafarers in this situation? So among other things, the Maritime Labor Convention said when states actually go forth with these measures that affect the Maritime Labor Convention, they should consult with ship owners and seafarers organizations. And that's important because when you see some of the states that have adopted regulations and things and procedures, those who have consulted effectively with ship owners and seafarers have come up with procedures that are a bit more pragmatic, worked a bit better. So that's quite important. With respect to crew changes in particular, because that's the big issue everybody's thinking about right now. I mean, the Maritime Labor Convention sets out these specific provisions in seafarers' employment agreements, and those provisions have been used to try to mitigate the worst effects of these extensions of agreements. I mean, there was some flexibility provided in the beginning with respect to the convention, but we always point to the fact that any extension should be with the consent of the seafarer, and it shouldn't remove any other rights regarding, for example, repatriation of seafarers. So we come back to this all the time. The convention also sets out periods like on a maximum period that you should remain on board the ship. And that was something that was being discussed pretty heavily prior to the crisis. And we have an 11-month default period. So when you see this question of how long people should stay on board, having this in the convention actually is quite helpful in drawing attention to the fact that, okay, obviously when you go beyond your regular agreement, if you have an agreement, that's already a bad situation. But if you go beyond 11 months, you're really going beyond the maximum that's expected. So this has helped highlight this problem with extensions, some of which have gone now beyond that, but everybody keeps thinking about that 11-month period. So that's helpful. The convention also was helpful for pointing out provisions on occupational safety and health, making sure seafarers had masks, sanitary equipment, et cetera, on board. So there's a lot of things in the convention that have been used as a touchstone.
You bring up MLC a lot there in your opening remarks. Is the Maritime Labour Convention ripe for an update now, would you say?
The way the Maritime Labour Convention works and the ILO works, the convention, if it's going to be amended, because now when you say an update, that's really amending it. If it's amended, those proposals must come from our constituents. So I'm with the Secretariat. We don't make those proposals, though we are looking into all the information that's out there, Seafarers Happiness Index, analyzing some of these cases that have come out that have been reported by individuals and crews and governments to create a background for discussion. But this issue will be discussed in April next year when we have the meeting of the Special Tripartite Committee of the Maritime Labor Convention. And if there are any proposals for amendments, those would have to be made to the ILO by the 1st of October. So you can bet that right now there are many people who are looking at the convention and considering what should be changed. And of course, with the convention itself, with regard to COVID, it'll take a long time for these amendments to take effect. So if we even propose something in October, by the time the convention is amended, that's going to be several years from now. So I think when we discuss COVID and the MLC and amending, I've already mentioned the value of the MLC, but if we look at changes, we'll probably be looking not only of things related specifically to the pandemic, but generally to pandemics and future unexpected situations, and also other changes that have been revealed as a result of the crisis. Because I think this crisis has put a lot of attention on issues like the amount of time people remain at sea. It's just a big issue. It's related to fatigue, among other things. So if it's ripe for review, well, I mean, even if it is ripe for change, it's going to take a while for the change, and it's going to be in a different way than maybe some people expect. But I think we have also seen that the convention has been a valuable tool even in this crisis. Even though the convention doesn't predict the crisis, wasn't designed with the crisis in mind. But the fact that you have an instrument that's generally accepted, widely accepted by nearly all major flag states and labor providing states, port states, the fact that you have that in place and you can go back to that to help bring seafarers back under the protection they deserve has been helpful. And we also have another convention, by the way, Seafarers Identity Document Convention, which provides an identity document for seafarers, which we think that's an important convention for states to ratify as well, because that will help identify seafarers clearly. And that helps when you, for example, make them key workers and you want to get them through green lanes and other means of getting, from the ship to home or vice versa.
Thank you so much, Brant. We'll be back next Thursday with another Wallum-sponsored episode of the Maritime CEO Seafarer Leader Series. In the meantime, everyone, stay sane and sanitize.